Hi there, my name is Alex, and I'm here today with Resonance to talk to you about compressors. This is part 3 of a 3-part series covering everything you need to know about compressors. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the more advanced features of compressors and some more creative applications. So let's get started. One of the most commonly used mixing techniques is something called parallel compression, sometimes known as New York compression. To set up parallel compression, we use a compressor on an auxiliary, rather than as an insert directly on a channel. This allows us to mix together both the compressed resultant audio with the original uncompressed audio. This is the same in DAWs as it is on mixing consoles. Send the audio to a separate bus, add the compressor to the bus, and then find a balance between the compressed audio and the original audio using the faders. Parallel compression opens up a whole extra dimension of creativity. It allows us to maintain an amount of transparency and dynamic range, which can be lost or affected by certain types of compression, whilst also gaining some of the tonal characteristics of the compressor we've chosen. This also means we can use a compressor that might ordinarily have undesired effects on our source. By using a blend of the original source signal, we can mix the positive characteristics of both. Parallel compression has become so commonly used as a technique that most software compressors now include a mix control on their output section. At one end of the control we have dry and the other wet. Set the control to dry to hear the completely uncompressed or bypassed signal, and then set to wet to hear only the compressed output, or set the control somewhere in between to hear a mix of the two. This essentially allows us to set up a parallel compression bus right there within the channel. It couldn't be simpler. Another advanced compression technique is to use a multiband compressor. Multiband compressors have multiple, either set or variable, frequency band compressors, which can be used to apply compression differently to separate frequency ranges within an audio signal. A typical multiband compressor would split the frequency spectrum into 4 sections, i.e. bass, low mid, and high, for you to apply separate compression. Some more advanced multiband compressors will even allow you to change the crossover points for each band, and even add more bands for increased control. This means you could set a heavy compression ratio of, let's say, 8:1 on all signals above a set threshold for 20 Hz to 200 Hz, a ratio of 4:1 from 200 Hz to 1 kHz, with a completely different threshold, attack time, and applying no compression at all to frequencies above 1 kHz, or any combination you could possibly imagine. One example of how you might use this would be to use a multiband compressor on the mix or master bus to control the tonal balance and dynamics of your entire mix by targeting specific frequency sections within your mix. One of the more interesting and creative uses of a compressor is to utilize something called a sidechain, otherwise known as a key input. Not all compressors have this feature, but most modern compressors will. The sidechain is the secondary audio input to the compressor, which remains inaudible to the listener. The sidechain audio is used to feed the detector circuit of the threshold, instead of using the primary audio signal as normal. In other words, if we call input signal audio A and the sidechain signal audio B, the compressor will only apply compression to audio A when audio B hits the threshold, regardless of what level audio A is at the time. All of the other compression settings, including attack, release, and ratio, operate as normal. Here is a practical example for you to hear what's going on. On this channel, I have some white noise recorded, a consistent level with absolutely no dynamics. Adding a compressor to this normally would be pretty much pointless. However, using a sidechain could allow us to add some dynamic range to this otherwise lifeless signal. To do this, I will use the kick drum audio as the signal for my sidechain. The compressor is added to the white noise channel and the 909 kick as the key input. So now the compressor is listening to the kick drum instead of the white noise, but still applying compression to the white noise. We can now hear that the white noise is pulsing up and down in volume in relation to each kick drum hit. The previously flat noise is now very dynamic, completely the reverse of what we normally expect from a compressor. So why would you do this? Aside from this being a fun experiment, there are so many applications for this technique. Here is an example. I have created a section of an EDM track. We have the beat here. We have our chords here. And underneath, we have this fairly weak bass, with no real stage in the song. It isn't really working. So to make this bass sound more engaging, and to make it fit the song a bit better, we will utilize a sidechain of a compressor. Firstly, we need to choose an audio source for our sidechain. For this, I have bounced out the kick drum sound and added it to the top of the project, here labeled as Ghost Kick. The output of this channel is turned off, as I don't actually want to hear it in the song. Its only purpose is to feed my sidechain compressor. Next, we need to add a compressor to the bass track. Now, we need to select Ghost Kick from the sidechain menu. Now let's have a look at the sidechain settings. Here, I want to use peak detection rather than RMS. I want the compressor to activate every time the kick drum transients occur. Now, let's have a listen to the results and make some adjustments to the compressor to get something that we desire. One final compression technique that is worth covering is master bus compression. Master bus compression is used for mastering and sometimes mixing to control the overall dynamic range of your track, otherwise commonly referred to as the glue. This can be a delicate art, and there are many opinions on how this should be used. Some prefer to use the compressor quite heavily to achieve a pumping characteristic. Others use it just to rein in the peaks. Mastering and mixing engineers everywhere use a variety of attack and release times too. Some engineers even mix their whole project with the master bus compressor enabled. Others only use it right at the end to mix the session and finalize the sound. There isn't really a right or wrong way to use it, just be sure not to overdo it. And remember, there is no magic fix-it-all compression technique that can fix a poor mix. So that's it for this video, and this video series on compression. But of course there's so much more to be explored with this topic, but this should give you enough to get started using compression within your own productions. Remember, there is no right way to do it, as long as it sounds good to you.
Google Resonance Education or check us out on social media. One institute, endless opportunities. Join the pioneers.